It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's also Bible study to Christmas, so stay tuned for that, I guess. Hello and welcome to day 12 of Bible study to Christmas. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Michelle and I make a lot of videos as of recently. So I really hope you enjoy the video. Today we are starting with our new topic of Christ is here. And if you haven't seen the previous videos of Jesus's birth, wow, that is quite a mouthful. But make sure to go check those videos out as well. They will be linked above or below. Warning, I am by no means a biblical expert. The things I say in these videos are purely my perceptions of what I'm reading, as well as guidance from sources that I find. So now that that mouthful is done, I'm going to stop babbling, grab your Bible, and let's go. So today we will be reading John chapter 6, verses 1 to 15. After this, Jesus crossed over to the far side of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. A huge crowd kept following him wherever he went, because they saw his miraculous signs and as he had healed the sick. Then Jesus climbed a hill and sat down with his disciples around him. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd?" "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. The men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterwards he did the same with the fish, and they all ate as much as they wanted. After everyone was full, Jesus told his disciples, "Now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." So they picked up the pieces and filled 12 baskets with scraps left by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. When the people saw him do this miraculous sign, they exclaimed, "Surely he is the prophet we have been expecting." When Jesus saw that they were ready to force him to be king, he slipped away into the hills by himself. So this is a very common story in the Bible where Jesus feeds the 5,000 with some bread and some fish. So let's dig a little deeper into it. So in verses 1 to 4, Jesus is in the Galilee region once again, and he has been followed by a very, very large crowd who has seen him and the miracles that he has performed. So in verses 5 to 7, Jesus asks Philip, "How are we going to feed all these people?" And he wasn't doing this because he was clueless. He was actually testing Philip because he already had a plan. But he saw this as a teaching opportunity for his disciples, so he thought, why not ask the class? So the issues were raised that they would not have enough resources or money or time to be able to supply this large amount of bread. Also, it would be physically impossible to buy enough for everyone at one go. But then, in verse 8 to 9, Andrew offers some insight, saying that there is this young boy who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. Now, this certainly wasn't going to feed 5,000 people. In fact, it probably wasn't even enough to feed all the disciples. But God can do a lot with a little. So in verse 10, Jesus makes the followers sit down. And he's not panicked or hasty. In fact, he's pretty chilled because he knew his plan. So in verse 11 is where the 5,000 begin to be fed. Jesus starts by giving thanks to God. Even though there was very little, he is still grateful. So he starts breaking the loaves and sharing the fish, and he gives it to the disciples to give to the people. And the miracle was literally happening in his hands. It was so subtle that no one really realized that the miracle was happening at all. After doing some digging, I came through a very cool and interesting analysis. So grain has the ability to multiply, but when bread is made, the grain is crushed to make flour, but Jesus is life-giving, and he shows how he brings life from death. So he brings back the multiplying grain. That's so smart. So smart. Also, Jesus deliberately makes the disciples distribute this bread so that they can also be part of his work. They weren't themselves doing the miracle, but it was a good learning opportunity for them. It's also important to note that he didn't just supply the perfect amount, he supplied in abundance, that there was more than enough and that everyone would be full. So once everyone was full, in verse 12 to 13, the leftovers were collected in order not to waste anything. Of course, when the people eventually figured out the miracle that took place, they were in absolute awe. And they wanted to force Jesus to become king. See, the people wanted to throw off Roman oppression, and they thought the man who's capable of all these miracles was the perfect man to do so. However, Jesus wasn't so impressed with this politics idea, and he rejected the offer and went to the mountains, as one does. So, now that we've analyzed this extract, what can we learn from it? Firstly, God can do big and amazing things from absolutely nothing. See, we often think that God can't do big and amazing things in our lives because we may not have enough money or resources or whatever it may be. But see, God doesn't need earthly things to do his work. We often doubt if God will pull through in our lives, but it's usually in those moments that we have the most faith that we see the biggest miracles take place. I might do another video about that at some point. God doesn't just do the bare minimum, and his miracles are definitely not like that either. He's somewhat of an overachiever, okay? He provides in abundance and gives us more than what we need. But it is very important that we don't see God as our bank of miracles, okay? We should aspire to work for him as well, like the disciples handing out the bread and the child giving the little that he had for the crowd. Ultimately, when we stand in faith, we will see big things happen in our lives and in the lives of others, because God always has a plan. Thank you so much for sitting through this Bible study with me to the end. I really hope that you learned something from it and that it touched you in some way. Please subscribe to stay tuned for the series so that you can be notified every time I post, and that you can carry on with your personal Bible study. Also, feel free to comment any questions or points that you would like to add, or even corrections, and also comment your favorite verse or point that you took away from today's video. I would love to hear what you thought of it and your own perspectives. Have a beautiful and blessed day, and I will see you for day 13 of Bible study to Christmas. Bye!